Nepal is a beautiful country and is a gift to this world, but it has also an irrefutable image as a land of tragic royal massacres. Among the long list of rulers, this king in particular has a reputation for being a notorious dictator of all. He was the initiator of Rana regime, and although he might be considered as one of the most important figures in Nepal's history, he is often blamed by the historians for setting up the dictatorship that repressed the country for 104 years. He paved the path for other Rana rulers and is considered one of the darkest periods in Nepal's history. Today, let's go into the life of Jung Bahadur Rana. If you have watched my previous video on Bhimsen Thapa, you already know that King Rana Bahadur Shah was murdered by his half-brother Sher Bahadur, which later became the cause for Bandarkal massacre. Kaji Balnar Singh Kuwar, the father of Jung Bahadur, was in the court during the assassination of Rana Bahadur. Balnar Singh, as a retaliation, killed Sher Bahadur, and for this he was awarded with the position of Kaji. Jung Bahadur's mother, Ganesh Kumari, was the sister of Matbar Singh Thapa. Jung Bahadur Kunwar got married at the age of 11 and from an early age showed great interest in courageous deeds, and therefore he got admitted to military. And when Balnar Singh moved to Jumla in the year 1835, Jung Bahadur was already promoted to the rank of General Lieutenant. However, in 1837, when Bhimsen Thapa was dismissed, all the relatives were freed from the services, including of Balnar Singh and Jung Bahadur. Their property was seized and therefore they became unemployed. To provide for his family, Jung Bahadur went to Varanasi in search of work. In 1839, he returned to Kathmandu, where he found his wife and infant son had already died. In 1839, Jung Bahadur was married to the sister of Colonel Sanak Singh Tripathi Tandon. He received a decent amount of dowry, which resulted in slight betterment of his family. In 1840, King Rajendra went to Tarai, where coincidentally he met Jung Bahadur. In times, Jung Bahadur would impress the king by showing courageous acts. This pleased the king and he hired Jung Bahadur for the post of the captain and was included among the bodyguard of the crown prince. Slowly, with his diligent effort, he managed to please the queen, the prince and the prime minister. The queen was the acting ruler of the country. Little they know, Jung Bahadur wanted to establish a Rana autocracy. And to do this, he opted for the only consideration that would forever stain his and his family name. What was it? Let's find out in the next chapter. On 14th September 1846, Jung Bahadur Kunwar and his brothers killed about 40 members of the Nepalese palace court, including the Prime Minister. By 1850, Jung Bahadur had already eliminated all major rivals, installed his own candidates on the court, appointed his own brothers in important posts. After the massacre on 15th September, the Queen appointed Jung Bahadur as the Prime Minister and Commander-in-Chief. The youngest queen commanded Jung Bahadur to remove Surendra and declare Rajendra as the new crown prince. But Jung Bahadur ignored, which caused him the bad press from the queen. To take the revenge, the queen started to conspire secretly to assassinate Jung Bahadur by forming an alliance with the survivors of Kot massacre. The plan was finally formed to assassinate Jung Bahadur in the garden of Andarkhal, which is located in the east side of the palace. Jung Bahadur already got the wind of this plot through his spies which he had placed inside the palace to know about the queen and the events that were happening inside. After a few days, Jung Bahadur received a command from the queen to visit her to Vandarkhal garden. Knowing this, he had already prepared fully armed troops, which he took and headed towards the garden. Seeing the approaching Jung Bahadur with his troops, the conspirators started to flee, but only few were able to escape. Total of 23 people were killed by Jung Bahadur on that day. Jung Bahadur imprisoned the queen, and in a council meeting, he charged the queen of trying to assassinate the prince and the prime minister. The queen then was freed from all her rights. She then asked Jung Bahadur to let her go to Banaras with all her family, which Jung Bahadur agreed to. King Rajendra went alongside with her. After knowing the presence of the king, the queen and other citizens in Banaras, Guru Prasad also went there and started to formulate a plan to execute Jung Bahadur. He consulted the plan with the king and the king agreed with him and also provided him with the necessary support. Guru Prasad then started to organize an army by recruiting Nepalese people who were living outside the country and training them. Meanwhile in Kathmandu, the spies of Jung Bahadur sent back reports to him. And knowing this, Jung Bahadur summoned a council meeting and he accused the king and deemed that every order now will be according to the Prime Minister Jung Bahadur and not the king. The king panicked after receiving such a letter. The Guru and the others suggested the king to send a letter to the army mentioning that the troops shall assist the king, not the Prime Minister. The stamped letter was sent in with two of his courtiers who secretly reached Kathmandu and stayed in a house with an honor of Kilagar. The spies of Jung Bahadur captured them and destroyed the house next morning. A pistol and a letter was found. Immediately they were imprisoned and a few days later hanged till death. On May 12, 1847, in the speech of Thurikhel, Prime Minister Jung Bahadur accused the king of the attempted assassination of the prince and the prime minister. Then the council decided to dethrone the king and deeming him mentally ill and also crowning Prince Surendra as the new king of the Nepal. Hearing this, King Rajendra decided to take the responsibility of removing Jung Bahadur upon himself. He left Banaras, he appointed Guru Prasad as chief army and accumulated weapons. He started training the army, and the training was done in the camp of the king of Betia, who was a good ally of King Rajendra. The king of Betia, he provided him with all the support needed, with treasure and also some elephants. The treasure also was secretly brought to Betia through Banaras. And after a while, a plan to attack Nepal was made. On July 23, the troops reached to the village called Alau in Persia, then Bara, and sent camp there. The number of troops available at Alau were around 3,000. That's because 1,000 of them fled on the way. One spy group sent the news to Jung Bahadur, after which he immediately sent a troop to Alau. They rested in a village called Simraugha, not too far from Alau. At dawn the next day, the troops from Kathmandu started firing cannons at the camp. The spontaneous attack erupted great distress and panic over the former king and his army. Around 100 soldiers of the king were killed in the battle, and the king was captured and brought to Kathmandu. The battle was lost, and the King Rajendra was imprisoned in an old palace in Bhaktapur. the Treaty of Sugoli, British had gained access to the internal matters of Nepal. But Jung Bahadur had a strong opinion that neither the resident nor the Governor General shall have any involvement in the matter of Nepal. He therefore wanted to establish a direct relationship between the government of Nepal and the Prime Minister of the Great Britain. After the Treaty of Sugoli, British had gained access to the internal matters of Nepal. But Jung Bahadur had a strong opinion that neither the resident nor the Governor General shall have any involvement in the matter of Nepal. He therefore wanted to establish a direct relationship between the government of Nepal and the Prime Minister of the Great Britain. On 15 Jan, Jung Bahadur left Kathmandu to Calcutta, met with the Lord and Lady Dalhousie. Then the crew left Calcutta in P&O Harrington ship, through Madras, Sri Lanka and Aden. He also went to Egypt. On 15 May 1850, the team reached Southampton, Britain. In Britain, he met the chairman of Board of Trade, the Duke of Wellington and others. On 19 June, Jung Bahadur finally met Queen Victoria. He also visited the Prime Minister and proposed a direct relationship between the British and Nepal, which British government rejected. He then traveled to France and desired to establish a direct relationship between France and Nepal. But the French president insisted on forming the relationship through the British embassy. After about 6 weeks, he departed from Paris, and on 29 Jan 1851, Jung Bahadur reached Nepal. Jung Bahadur was highly impressed by the rule of law, parliament and the democratic system in Great Britain. In those days, there were no written acts in Nepal, so Jung Bahadur established Kausal Adda to work on those laws. He elected around 200 members for the Adda and commanded them to draft legal codes. Adda began its work by studying traditions, class, race, as well as religious situation of Nepal. After 3 years of vigorous research, the detailed act was finally made. This act included inner workings of the court, systems of punishment, and different sections of administrations. The act was thus termed as Muluki-Ain, and on 6 Jan 1854, Muluki-Ain was implemented around the country of Nepal. The copies of the act were distributed around all offices and courts. Jung Bahadur with the Muluki-Ain had formed the base of law in Nepal. Before coming to the end of this video, I'd like to say that I'm making this video for all the students out there who have a very hard time understanding history from the textbooks. And I hope my videos will provide you very comprehensive details and make it easier to understand history. So it will help you through your studies. And if you haven't hit that thumbs up button, please do, and click on subscribe button for more videos. Till then, stay safe and see you next time.